Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time around we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me to review by Troma. And you can pick this up right now on Blu-ray. And it is a film that I've been wanting to watch for quite a while. You know, I've always heard that it is one of the better Troma films that they've have released. And it's always one that's been on my radar. And I know that Seven released a limited edition of this movie a couple years ago. And unfortunately I missed out on it, but now you can pick up this new edition from Troma, and it is a film titled Combat Shock. So yeah, I've heard about this movie for years, and like I said, it's one I've been wanting to check out. I just never really had the opportunity to finally watch it. So when I heard that it was getting a new edition from Troma, you know, I was super excited to have the opportunity to finally watch it and review it for you guys. So what do I think about Combat Shock? Well, this is definitely one of the more bleakest movies Troma has ever released, if you guys have seen it. It definitely has no happy parts to it whatsoever. I mean, the whole movie is super depressing and super bleak. Really has no happy moments, and it's definitely different than your average, you know, Troma film that they pick up and release. You know, besides a few like screenplay and of course the ones that Lloyd has done himself, you know, Troma doesn't have the best reputation of picking up the highest quality movies. But I feel like this one definitely tells a pretty interesting story. So, you know, basically we follow our main character, and he is a Vietnam vet. And he comes back, he was captured, he was a prisoner of war, he was captured, he was tortured. He comes back to Staten Island, and he is, you know, he's suffering from PTSD. And if you guys know about history, a lot of the Vietnam vets who came back were not very taken care of or even respected by, you know, normal citizens or the government, which is super unfortunate. So this movie really talks a lot about that. I feel like all these vets on Staten Island who basically live in poverty, nobody really cares about them. They're into drugs, they suffer from PTSD, no one really cares about them. And I feel like that's like the real message of this movie has, that, you know, America turned its back on Vietnam vets who, you know, gave their lives to fight this useless war. And now that they've come back here, we've all just ignored them. And we don't really deal with the real issues with these people who are suffering, like I said, from PTSD and drug use and all that. So like I said, we follow a Vietnam vet. He comes back. He lives with his wife and his baby, who is deformed because of, I would assume, Agent Orange from the Vietnam War and all the chemicals that he was, accustomed to when he was fighting in the war. So he lives with his wife and his deformed baby, kind of like an Eraserhead kind of vibe with this dynamic. And, you know, they're poor, they have no food, they have no water, he can't get a job because, you know, there isn't any jobs, and, you know, mentally he's not all there. So the film basically just follows him going out, meeting all these other different characters, and him trying to get his life together. And that's basically about it when it comes to this movie. It's just a character piece about a guy who was put in a really bad situation, trying to piece together his life, and it ultimately ends in a pretty shocking climax, I guess you could say. I think back on the times it would probably be very shocking. Is it shocking today? No, I've seen a lot worse than what happens in the end of this movie. But I feel like it just culminates all this bad things that have been happening to this guy. It just ultimately boils over, and we get this, you know, this ending, which is, you know, pretty depressing, even though the whole movie is depressing. We get this pretty depressing ending. And that's it. It just ends. No happy endings, no nothing. The movie just ends on a bleak note. I feel like that's what this movie's just trying to say, that this war was just a bleak war. So this movie's actually, it's very low budget. You know, the guy pretty much financed the movie with his wedding money, but it's still pretty well made. It has some good tracking shots from cars and things like that. And the acting is hit and miss at some points. Sometimes it's a little bit comedic, even though it doesn't try to be. But I feel like with most of these low-budget movies, especially from this time period, you weren't probably going to get the best acting. But I feel like our main actor in this movie does a really, really great job portraying this Vietnam vet. The transfer, it was shot on 16 millimeter, so you're not going to get the best restoration when it comes to this movie. It's not going to like blow your mind or anything like that, but I feel it does a good enough job to keep the integrity of the movie and the grittiness of the movie while also giving it a modern look to it that probably it hasn't looked this good. I wouldn't know because I haven't seen it, but I would assume it probably hasn't looked this good in a while. And this is actually a 2-disc set from Troma. You don't really see these 2-disc sets anymore. We have the feature film on one disc, and we have all the features on the other disc. And of course, you have your legendary intro by Lloyd Kaufman. The minute you put in the minute you put in the first disc, you have your intro by Uncle Lloyd. And whenever you watch a Troma film, you pop it in, and you love the Uncle Lloyd intros. He's always hilarious and all that. And you just got a boatload of features. Too much to list again. But we have an interview with the director, a documentary about PTSD in Vietnam, and some trailers and some other things. The soundtrack in this movie is really, really great. Really synth 80s style soundtrack. It's really, really fantastic. Definitely one of the highlights of this movie. So what I think about Combat Shack? It's good. It's an interesting character piece. It's not like my favorite movie or anything like that, but I'm glad I finally did watch it because, like I said, it's one I've been wanting to watch for quite a while now. So I did appreciate the fact that Troma tried to release a movie that had a little bit of social commentary to it, which, their movies typically don't have. So I recommend you guys pick up this edition of Combat Shack if you don't already have it. And like I said, you can pick this up right now on Blu-ray and all your local retailers. So that is my review of Combat Shack. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. So always follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. And I hope everybody's doing well, and I shall talk to you guys later. See you guys.